Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg. It is the 15th day of April 2025 and welcome to our show today. Today it's Lawful Defense with John Tatar, Mr. Tatar, and we're going to be talking about lots of things. I'm going to bring him on right away because today is the day we're going to be talking about hope, because I think that Trump was right about everything. So, and staying faithful when things don't go exactly as we think they are supposed to go, but we don't have all the answers or all the information. So it's just like anything else. We don't need to know necessarily all the specifics, but when we see the wind blowing in the right direction, you can pretty extra sure know kind of the direction that things are going and being able to question everything. So I just finished my TikTok video and I had trouble getting it to download. So I'm going to put this up while you address this and we talk as the start of the show. How you doing today, John?
I'm doing great. All is well. Everything looks good. We're heading for a great future, and we all just have to be patient.
Well, and I think to that point, I'm not really sure that any of us that are aware really thought this was going to be an easy path to be on, getting out of the mess we're in. We didn't sign up for an easy path. We signed up to right the nation. And that right now, as bad as it had gotten, is going to be a little bit of a tough path. But I don't think we should shy away from it.
Well, even the Revolutionary War was not an easy battle. Washington almost lost his troops before his attack across the Delaware River against the German Hessians. So no, war is not an easy battle. But we're not in a kinetic war, physical war. We are in a information war, which is not a whole lot easier, probably just as bad or worse, because at least in a kinetic war, you see the enemy and you shoot at them. In this war, you don't really know who the enemy is all the time. The enemy can be covered up, can be hidden, can be activated at any particular time. The information can be slanted, as though it's been slanted ever since Obama got into office and took away the Smith-Muntz Act, which allowed the local medias to produce propaganda to the American people, even though propaganda has been going on long before that act. But now it's free game for the public, for the news media, to say whatever they want to say and get away with it.
Because you mean the Kenyan?
Huh?
You mean the Kenyan?
Well, okay, call them what you want.
I will.
A snake and a rat, both. But then there's rats going all the way back to George Bush. Every one of them before, I'll say since Reagan, have been rats. So, and even little Jimmy Carter, the Peanut Man, he was a rat.
But I think Reagan was a rat. I think they all were.
I think Reagan was coerced. Number one,
that very well could be.
Into putting Rat Bush in as vice president. And by doing so, Rat Bush did a lot of the game playing, the Iran-Contra affair and all that stuff, and hid it from the president. He wasn't working for the United States or the president or Ronald Reagan. He was working for the deep state back then. And actually was working for the deep state when John Kennedy was assassinated, and he was a CIA director. So he's Papa Rat, as far as I'm concerned. He goes way back.
Well, I think to your point, there's been a lot of people that have been blackmailed, and that who have been blackmailed and who have been co-opted. Just basically, it's really sad. I mean, it's sad, but the reality is the reality. So even good people getting into office, I think we're going to find out how deep this actually goes. And one of the things that I've always seen when I really finally got into governance here is how afraid people are. They're afraid. It's not, if they've been in for a while and you're around them, you can see the fear in their eyes.
Lifelong teaching to be afraid. Yeah. Lifelong teaching. Be afraid of the guy in the big black robe who calls himself a judge. Be afraid of him. Be afraid of jail. I'm not saying that you want to go to jail or you want to commit crimes to go to jail or step out, stick your head in the noose. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, if you fear government, you're a slave. The only way we can get out of this is when the government fears us. And so we are turning that big battleship or aircraft carrier around in the ocean, but you can't do that on the spur of the moment. You can't go 180 degrees in a couple of minutes. It takes a long time to turn that battleship around or aircraft carrier around. And that's what we're doing. We're turning that big aircraft carrier around from the deep state that has been in control of this country ever since Roosevelt. Roosevelt was also a rat, took gold out of the system, violated the Constitution, should have been in prison at that point. But again, the Congress was on his side or went along with it, and they took gold out of the system and created this problem that we are in the middle of right now. Because he took gold out, they got rid of Kennedy, they assassinated Kennedy, they took the silver out when Kennedy was assassinated by Rat Johnson. And Rat Johnson put us on a fiat system at that point. And Nixon took us off the gold standard worldwide. So Nixon, I don't know. Sometimes I hear good stuff about him. Sometimes I hear bad stuff about him. I'm really not, the jury's out on Nixon with me at this point, whether he was good or bad. But the point of the matter is, we've been at this war since 1933 and probably long before then. It has been said by a book that I've been reading called, where's that book? What did I do with that book? It's here somewhere. I put my finger on it.
Hey, you were a Boy Scout, weren't you? Were you an Eagle Scout?
Enemies.
Were you an Eagle Scout?
All the way back to Washington.
Okay. Were you a Boy Scout? Were you an Eagle Scout? You were.
I am an Eagle Scout.
You're an Eagle Scout. Okay.
Once you're an Eagle Scout, you're always an Eagle Scout.
Like Marines, right? Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine.
Once you're a colonel, you're always a colonel.
Okay. So anyhow, go ahead. Please continue.
The book called Domestic Enemies talks about going back to when they tried to get rid of George Washington. So this has been going on ever since the Constitution was established. The powers of the world, the deep state, the ugly rats that run the syndicate have been at this for a long time. Now they're expecting Trump in 3 months to make a difference. He is making a difference, but he can't turn that aircraft. If we go 1 or 2 degrees off course, that's a great start. That means we're going to continue in that direction. We can't expect a complete change overnight. It's going to take time. We were, as I remember Joyce Riley saying on the Power Hour years ago, we were born for this time. This is our battle. And so we need to be very alert and aware of what's going on and not shriek or hide when the deep state knocks on our door and expects something from us. We need to return or retaliate. We can't leave it all up to Trump. He's doing his job at the federal level in DC, but we have to do our job locally and with the general public, because we have to bring the general public around. Yes, some of them are brain dead and don't have an understanding of what's going on and wouldn't even if they were in the middle of it. And they are in the middle of it, but they don't see it. They don't see it. They're too wrapped up in whatever.
And the questions that need to be asked are different than the ones that are being asked. I was in a group chat this morning, and somebody was bragging about, basically ducking paying for the student loans and saying, well, we shouldn't have it. And my point is that human beings like to justify bad behavior and encourage other people to do bad behavior. And I'm really not a fan, and I'll tell you why. Though they may have a point. Human beings will justify anything in order to meet the goals that they think that is the right thing, especially if they think they were had an injustice done to them. Well, the problem with this is that why isn't anyone going after these institutions and saying, you promised us X, Y, and Z, you did not fulfill the promise of a bright future and a career, and you took money and it was fraudulent. The money you took was fraudulent. Why are we going to duck it and put the burden on the taxpayers instead of going after these institutions which have money laundered and have had that's the giant sucking sound right there into Stupidville. And why are we not making these institutions pay restitution for what they promised and did not deliver? If you were promised a product of anything and someone did not deliver, there would be a recourse for that. And just justifying and saying, oh, I just ducked my student loan, and whatever. It seems to me to be a little short-sighted in actually dealing with the problem and very self-centered.
Well, the student loan is another issue that we could deal with, but taking a look at the institutions, the institution provides a stepping stone, so to speak, in life, and it's called commencement. Commencement doesn't mean that once you get your 4-year degree, you step out into a 6-figure position. It means that that's where you start to learn. They give you the tools by which to, and the fortitude and the drive and the stick to it power to go on to become or do whatever you want to do in the future. I didn't learn my Constitution and my law stuff in college. I did take constitutional law, and I was prepping to be an attorney at one point, realizing that they're the corrupt bottom feeders of our country, and so I got out of that business. But the learning of the problem with the attorney is he goes to law school, he gets his JD Esquire title, and he thinks he's got it all. I know everything. I don't need to learn anything. I don't need to read court cases because they're right here in my notes, and all I have to do is go back to my notes. I can save all of that time. I can charge tons of dollars on people and live on their misery. And the more misery that they create, the more money I make. That's their philosophy. They won't tell you that, but that's what they do. They want to keep the process going as long as they can. If there's a husband and wife that are divorcing, they want to keep that divorce going. I'll tell you what, if you were in the middle of a divorce and you could sit down with your wife and ex-wife or whatever you want to call her, future wife, whatever, and you sit down with her and you negotiate a deal, then you could get out of it. It doesn't cost you anything. But if you go to an attorney, the attorney will say, oh, hell, we can take the house, we can take the car, we can take this, we can take that, we can take your firstborn, we can get it all. And then you run out and hire an attorney, and that attorney says, no, that can't happen. Those attorneys are in the back room talking about how much money does this guy have? Yeah. How much money does she have? How much money can we get from the two of them? How long can we keep this case going? That's their game. It's always been. The judges are involved in the same thing. So when you get into a conflict, you shouldn't be running to government. Government isn't to help you.
Agreed.
Is your biggest problem. So you got to try to live and understand and communicate with each other.
Agree. So let's go back to this university thing, okay? So the universities say, yes, you go to the university, you have a bright future, and then they give you end up walking out with, I don't know, $200,000-$300,000 worth of debt or more. And let's just say a career in gender studies. There's some personal responsibility of making choices that are probably not in your best interest, that will never pay off. And you should know before you get into it. But if you could say the same thing about the jab too. that people should have done the research instead of just being driven without thinking into a cattle chute that they want you to go into. But in my opinion, the universities are promising people something for their investment in their education. There is a certain amount of that's pushed, right? So my whole thing is, instead of ducking the student loan, why are they not going after the unfulfilled promises by the education system? And it's a different way to look at
Well,
it.
it goes all the way back to elementary school.
Correct.
But here's the issue. As long as we have funny money in the system, as long as we have a Federal Reserve that prints money out of nothing, they have no backing to that money. It is totally a piece of paper with a number on it, a monopoly game money. As long as we have monopoly money in our system, we're not going to be able to rectify all of the other problems that exist. That is the problems with the institutions, problems with student loans. Because when I went to college, I think it was $700 a year.
Oh my gosh. Seriously?
Yeah, Wayne State University in 71. I paid $700 for my first year of college.
Dude, I was robbed.
Well, everybody else after that, because the funny money system, because we were still on silver, we weren't on silver, but we were getting off of, we were kind of on silver at that point. See, Johnson got us off silver in 64, but it took time for us to get off that silver standard and the money to inflate to the point that it is today. The dollar is only worth about 2 cents. So when you're looking at making $100 grand a year, multiply that times 2 cents, and then you know how much you really make in real-time money. And that's the same with the universities. When the universities, my daughter's making big money. I mean, she's making over $100 grand a year teaching college. But when you really think about what does that $100 grand buy you at 2 cents a dollar on a dollar, it's not very much. It's not like she's making big bucks. She thinks she is, and she's making a lot more in paper than I made when I was teaching, because at my height of my teaching career, I was making 80 grand a year. That was after 30 years of teaching. But again, money wasn't as inflated as it is today. So when people are in the middle of a student loan, the student loans is fake, because it's the fake system that created that dollar amount out of thin air, out of nothing, that you are paying back with your sweat equity. That's the crime right there. We got to get out of that system, and Trump is leading us out of that system. But we're going to take some pain in the process, because we're going to go to a new system, which is going to be based on gold and silver. And if we are now at an inflated rate of $1 being equal to 2 cents, and then we're going to eventually bring it back to $1 being worth $1, we're going to take some pain in the process. Now, people are complaining about inflation. Inflation doesn't go away just because Trump stops or slows it down. Inflation's still there. We're not going to return back to the $71 amount, $1971 amount, because we can't, not on this funny money system. The funny money system is what keeps the banks in operation, keeps the banks going. And we are the ones that are suffering from it, because every time they take a $100,000 loan out, that's more money in the system, and that more money in the system creates inflation. And therefore, the price of eggs has to go up, because the farmer cannot afford to. There you go.
I thought you'd like this. I just put that one on.
Beautiful.
I thought this goes beautifully. I had saved this off last night, and I thought when you start talking about it, it's like, let's look at what we really have here.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Look, everybody should be aware of this. What the system has done to us. And it's not Trump. Trump's trying to fix this thing. and he will, but it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to be able to go from $3, what the value of $1 is, back to $100 overnight. That's going to take some time.
Well, let's go back to some sanity here. Was President Trump even in the world here? The answer was no. How about here? No. How about here? No. Okay. Now, was he involved in politics at any of these states of the game, or was he trying to survive like the rest of us? No. Now enter in. You are here right now, and to your point, he is trying to put sanity back in what's going on, and it wasn't his fault. It's a good guy stepping forward. Everyone is stepping forward. All I can say is I hope that we can get past this threat, coercion, bullying, because it's real, and blackmailing that's going on.
Of course.
There's so much of it that it is going to be shocking people. In fact, I might just play a video in a few minutes here that I came upon on X, and I think that this is going to be very, very significant in the coming days for people to realize what we're really dealing with here. It's so much deeper than what people have a grasp on even yet, but we're going to have to deal with this. And it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It is the way it is. There's good and there's people that just plan to do evil. And that's what we're dealing with. We're going to have to clean the crap out of the chicken coop here.
That's right. That's right.
How you chickens doing?
If you understand war in any way, you'll take a look at all of the wars that we have had. Those wars weren't won overnight, and certainly not in 3 months. It took the United States and Rat Bush Sr. 1 year to build a military force in the Middle East against Saddam Hussein. 1 year of not only planning, but shipping materials and soldiers and building fortresses and digging foxholes and all of the things that the military had to do. It took them 1 year to establish the military presence in the Middle East. And we're expecting Trump in 3 months to clean house.
Absurd.
It doesn't fit.
It's absurd.
It is. It is absurd. The setting up of the battle that the Trump patriots, white hats, whatever you want to call, has been going on since the 90s. And maybe even before then. Maybe even during Kennedy's time, when Kennedy was assassinated. I don't know. I only know of the 90s era when things were going really south. It was George Bush and Bill Clinton that brought the Chinese, and in fact Nixon, that brought the Chinese into the trading business of the United States, to trade with the United States. They were our enemy. They were our enemy back then, and we wanted to make them trading partners. And it was Billy Boy Clinton, who we voted twice in office, that sold to the Chinese technology that they should have never had. It was Billy Boy Clinton that did most of the dastardly deeds and built the Chinese to where they are today. And then it was Hillary that sold in the uranium one issue, sold uranium to the Russians and to the Chinese. Why? Barack Obama was involved in that too. Those people are traitors. They were traitors back then. But we were thinking of electing Hillary as president at one point. Remember, not me, obviously, but lots of people out there were thinking that she was a good forerunner against
Oh, she stands for the women, John. She stands for the women. You know, I heard that over and over again, and I'm like, she doesn't stand for me. I don't particularly like this person at all, and I think she's a criminal.
Yeah,
So,
she's a criminal. She was way back when. She learned from the best of the criminals how to be a criminal. So
yeah, just because they say she's a woman and I'm a woman doesn't mean that she represents me. It's just like the same thing. You can't, you know, when somebody uses statements like that, it's so deceptive. Oh, they look like you, they talk like you. You guys are in the same club. No, we're not.
So we go back to inflation. It's going to be with us. It is with us. It's going to stay with us for a while until we return the system back to a constitutional system, which should have never been taken from us back during Roosevelt's time. They create the crisis, problem solution resolution process. They create the problem, they have a solution, and then they give us the resolution how to fix it. And it's always in their favor. And so we got to look out for this behavior of the deep state that they've been putting on us all this time. This has gone way back when, years ago. And I first got wind of the problem resolution system when David Icke spoke on his first video, The Truth Shall Set You Free. He's the one that brought that terminology. And now maybe that terminology was way before him, but he brought it forward. And I started realizing that, yeah, this is the game that they've been playing on us all these years. I've been at this since this late 70s, been battling this, trying to educate people, trying to say, hey, look what's going on. Look at the system. And I still have relatives that don't get it because they're just not tuned into what's really going on. They watch CNN and MSNBC and all those other fake networks, and they spew nothing but lies and deception to the public. And the people still buy into it. They don't understand that it's propaganda, that it's fake news. And as long as that fake news continues, we're going to have these difficulties with people. They're going to not understand what's happening.
Yeah, I think that the truth, that's why I believe in no censorship. You know, they keep weaponizing that and making people who have channels or networks, making them responsible for what's being said on that network. Well, people have the right to say what's on their mind without censorship. And I don't think we should be responsible for curating content. If we are out there providing a platform, the people who are saying what they're saying are exercising their First Amendment rights. And I'm sorry, but the entire government is about turning us into their freaking police force. It's been going on since forever. You know, the Nazis did it. Let's turn your neighbor in. Let's make you silence somebody. Let's make the businesses shut things down. And so that is a bunch of crap. The news has to be news, and people have to be able to openly discuss things. And I feel that way about it.
Well, that's true. And part of that whole process is that a lot of people are relying upon government to do things for them. Government's not there to do things for them. Government is the people that operate in government are public functionaries. They have a function in government. That's it. And their function in government is not to be the arbiter between people, between neighbors, between husband and wife, between parents and children. Their function is to operate the government. That's it. And we, the people, are the ones that need to be able to communicate and organize and settle our differences. I know there's going to be times when differences won't be settled because there are still hard-headed people out there that are not interested in communicating or not interested in settling differences. But it is that we don't call for government every time we have a cut on our finger and we need a Band-Aid. We take care of those problems ourselves. The major, huge problems of murder and rape and all of the other crimes that are out there, that's government's job. But our job is to talk to our neighbors, is to understand who they are and help them out if we can, or let them help us out and work together with them, not against each other.
Yeah, and that brings up a really good point. Is are people able to recognize a true threat, or are they just offended and somebody hurt their feelings because we have been conditioned to have to all agree with each other or else off with their heads?
Well, that's part of the problem. That's really part of the problem. I live in a nice area right now, which I consider a nice area. At least my property is nice. The rest of it, I don't care. But my property is nice. But I get every so often there's a guy that's racing up and down Grove, which is not far away from me, with a loud car or motorcycle. And, you know, I'd like to go and talk to that guy, but he's not going to be waiting for me. On the other hand, that's a good job for the police department to stop the racket and the noise, because that's what they're there for. They're there to maintain the peace of the public, not to necessarily stop somebody for a speeding ticket that's going 10 miles over the speed limit, but somebody that's really disturbing the public. That's where their job is. That's where their job should lie. However, they have been brought up to believe that they enforce the law, whatever the law is, whether it's right or wrong. They're going to make their revenue that day by giving a ticket. So the whole process of our whole country is kind of screwed up. We need to understand what's going on and try to fix the problem and not try to
talk to each other. Here's a question for everybody out there. How many times have you actually reached out to someone in government with a solution? So this is one of the problems that I see. People want to talk to you no matter what your role is. They want to talk to you as their therapist. I'm so angry about this. I'm angry about this. Blah, 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 on and on. And I get it. Nobody's listening. But that's not a productive way to approach change. You have to take the time, to actually sit down and let them get to know you a little bit. If you write one letter and then let it lay, well, in the state of Michigan, there's 11 million people. They're going to go to the one that's the biggest crying baby because they don't have the structure, the intelligence, or the integrity to actually cut this thing, down to what it needs to make it productive so that people's voices can be heard. There is some of that. So with working what we have, we're going to have to be responsible for running for office, for communicating with our people on a local level, all the way up the chain, to start being proactive and do something, not just talking, complaining, and sobbing about it. We have to put our words into action. So my advice to everybody is when you're meeting with somebody, do it like you would in a professional meeting. You have a short amount of time. You are responsible to make that time count. And that means cut it down to actionable steps and offer to be part of the solution instead of just running them around. We aren't going to be able to change this because at this point in time, they're not in the direction we're going right now. We're going to have to get in there and put our shoulder into it and help, and not just say, you need to be doing this for me. How about what can we do for us? And then have your actionable steps, because, just listening to somebody rant and rave like a lunatic gets us nowhere. And that's the majority of interactions we have.
I buy that as true. Yes. Most people complain a lot. Nobody has an answer. And that's the same with the media, same with even the so-called small, as my friend Ron says, small P patriots. They can rant and rave about what's going on that's wrong, but they have no solution as to how to fix it. And so the problems that we have are created because we hire the wrong people in office, voting for them, that's hiring them. We hire the wrong people in office, and then we rehire them in the next election. And then when they run out of, then they do their term limit as a representative, we hire them again as a senator for another 8 more years, or hire them as a governor. We know that they did bad when they were a representative. Speaking of Whitmer, she was doing bad as a governor, as a representative, and we hired her as a governor. Come on, wake up, folks. Know their background, know who they are, know that they lie, cheat, and steal, and don't hire them. Keep them out of office.
And
they have the power to do nasty stuff, which is what they're doing.
And investigate them. Denise brings up a good point, and so does Lev. I laugh when I listen to John James or Mike Rogers. It's so ridiculous. And then Denise says, our daughter graduated MSU in 22. She spent 3 years on Zoom for teaching. Yeah, you learn by, it's like saying I went on a Zoom call to be a parent. That is like absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
Right? Exactly. And $100,000 plus worth of debt. I taught online class for automotive, about $1,000 for their certification. And then we don't need universities, in my opinion. I think even doctors and nurses can be taught on the job, create a shadow training until they can pass the test. It's just that easy, just like getting trade jobs. I agree with you on this. I think it's, if you've got all of these classes to round you out when you're in college. I mean, that's what we're always told. And I'm going to tell you, some of it comes in handy. Okay, I went to India and I had a non-Western world class, and it did help me to kind of understand some of what I was seeing there in some ways. But you still don't understand it unless you're there on the ground. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's a poor imitation of actual experience. By the way, Concordia is now charging our daughter another $100,000 for the program. She had to move to Ann Arbor and pay rent until the $35,000 she saved to live on runs out. Her boyfriend with her, it's nuts. And Hillary gave us Soros. Yeah, we've got Charlotte, Levin, and Denise. They're all posting their.
No, Soros gave us Hillary. It's the other way around.
Hillary gave us Soros, and Soros gave. I'm sure it's pretty, interchangeable there. But and it's like look at what the economic means of what they've tried to do. And I've got a lot of questions. It's like when you watch somebody's business expand and grow to the degree that some of them have, not mentioning any names, but already mentioned their names this morning. I have some questions. And this is something that we were brought up yesterday with Vicki Davis. And this is the power of the keiretsu. Keiretsu is the Japanese word or framework for a supply line monopoly. So when we look at what's gone on, and monopolies are supposed to be illegal, but they're not. All you have to do is look at what happened, go down the train of destruction with Citizens United, which was a incredibly destructive piece of work that they inserted, and it gave corporations the rights of citizens. Wrong, bad, not a good idea. Well, they have not used antitrust against BlackRock, State Street Capital, Arabella, any of these, and that's something that needs to happen. Now let's look at the supply chain capture that they have, and look at the explosive growth that you see within these supply chain captures. And I have a deep suspicion right now that one of the people that's going to be put up as front runner for the Republican Party is probably involved in something similar to this keiretsu or supply line monopoly, because you can't get away from it. So at any rate, I think that this is something worth asking some questions about to see to see what's really happening here. So in 2018, Burns did an interview, and I like Patrick. Okay, I know Patrick did an interview, and I think that a lot of people have gotten into the system and then honestly revisiting what was really wrong, and now they're exposing it. Kennedy was in the same boat. Kennedy was trying to expose once they got into it and saw, oh my gosh, this is what's actually happening behind the scenes. We're being threatened and coerced and blah, blah, blah. And then calling it out for what it is. When you see somebody that's been controlled or put up as a puppet, guaranteed, we have a problem. And we're going to have to get to the bottom of this. I don't care what anybody says. So kind of interesting.
I have another take on the corporation versus corporation as citizen. You say that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because when they provided that situation, they allowed the citizens to sue the corporation as well as the corporation to sue the citizen. So they brought
the problem is that the dynamics, that was theoretically what was supposed to happen. But because these multinational corporations are up there, they've got unlimited money.
That's a whole nother ball game.
But it was like the same thing happened with the ERISA Act. ERISA Act was supposed to protect employment and pensions. That's where it came from. But the problem is they did exactly the opposite, and they knew what they were doing when they wrote this into law.
But you see, when you go after a corporation, you never go after the corporation. You always go after the individual. It's not the corporation that's making the mistake or that's doing the wrong. It's that individual that's sitting in that position that's doing the wrong. He's the one that you go after. You go after the CEO, you go after the accounting officer, you go after the layman on the street. That's part of that corporation. That's who you go after individually. Just like when you're going after a judge, you go after him individually, not as a judge.
Well, and you're going to see what happened here with one of the new lawsuits that I filed. And what they did was they appointed an attorney within the Attorney General's office to defend somebody that's in office. So now they're still not on the hook for what they do that's wrong. They find ways that they have unlimited resources, and it's wrong.
Well, that's when you turn around and you amend your complaint and you add that attorney to your complaint as a defendant.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's exactly what you do.
And
then if they screw up, then you add the next one. What?
Tell me how to do that.
You got two choices. You can amend your complaint. You got one amendment you can make on your complaint. Or you can cancel your complaint and file a new complaint with that attorney's name on it. And so then you sue the two of them.
Can you only amend your complaint once?
According to, you can amend your complaint once without leave. You can amend it more than once if you have leave from the court. But then you got to go to the court and you got to ask them, can I take leave to re-amend my complaint? And then it's up to them whether they'll give it to you or not. So the first amendment is a right. You just do it. And the second amendment, you have to ask for leave. So the question is, but then again, after you amend it the first time and it doesn't work, then you cancel the complaint and you file a new one.
Okay.
No cost, I was asked or whatever filing fee, but
I was asked to amend it and add an attestation, so I did that.
Okay, so then you've amended it once. You can't amend it again unless you ask for leave. Okay,
I'm going to consider this because I think that we need to, or can I file a? We'll have to think this thing through a little bit. But we'll see how this kind of ends up, because I'm completely of the opinion that we need to just continue in on this until we get some better behavior out of these people when they break the law.
Well, that's right. That's right. But the better way to do it is to add that attorney to their complaint. They're part of the same club. You're going after the same club.
Okay.
But go after them individually. You never go after them in their club membership, because their club is going to protect themselves against each other. And so I'm having that same problem right now with my federal lawsuit, that I'm being dragged through this is the process of service of process that I'm being dragged through. Those defendants that I filed originally, the 3 judges, were given 21 days. Then the court says, no, they're given 60 days because they're federal government. Then it said, well, because I didn't file for the AG and the DOJ at the same time, that 30 days lapsed. So now they're getting over it. Now it's 73 days, and they're going to have another 30 days added to that. So they're going to have 100 and some days before they have to respond. But I've been with the clerk. I've been chewing on the clerk a little bit in this process. They can't answer the complaint. I don't know how they're going to answer the complaint, how they're going to justify lying on the record. But that's what I want to see, how they're going to justify it.
The whole thing of the right to a speedy trial has been completely trashed.
Well,
it's a myth.
As I told the clerk yesterday, justice delayed is justice denied. And yeah, they're delaying me as much as they can, but it's going to come to an end eventually. And May 28th is deadline. There's no way they're going to wiggle out of it at that point, and then they're either going to have to come up with an answer, or they're going to go in default, and I'm going to start collecting money. One or the other, something's going to happen. So they've got until May 28th or May 29th to breathe freely. And then after that, we're going to squeeze the juggernaut on them a little bit. Now, that brings me to, since you're dealing with
we're all over the place this morning,
judges and so on and so forth, I got a call. On last week at our meeting, anybody that was there at the meeting heard from one of our patriots over there that said the judge came up with 2 court cases that said the judges have total immunity. And I read the 2 cases, and they don't say that at all. But I got to read this one part on this one case, which is Pearson versus Ray, which was a 1967 case. Pearson versus Ray. So I got to read 2 little paragraphs, which is outstanding. And these are the last 2 paragraphs. And there's much more in this that talks about immunity of judges. But this part particularly is outstanding. It says, but that is far different from saying that judges shall be immune from the consequences of any of his judicial actions, and that he shall not be liable for the knowing and intentional deprivation of a person's civil rights. What about, and we don't have civil rights, we have individual rights, but that's a misnomer of the case because of the civil action jurisdiction. What about the judge who conspires with local law enforcement officers to railroad a dissenter? What about the judge who knowingly turns a trial into a kangaroo court, or one who intentionally fouls the Constitution in order to obtain a conviction? Congress, I think, concluded that the evils of allowing intentionally knowing deprivations of civil rights to go unaddressed far outweigh the speculative inabilities affected which might attend to inquire into a judicial deprivation of civil rights. Then it goes on to the last paragraph. This one I almost fell out of my chair. A judge is liable for injury caused by the ministerial act to have immunity. The judge must be performing a judicial function. The presence of malice and the intention of deprivation of a person of his constitutional rights, he exercises no discretion or individual judgment. He acts no longer as a judge, but as a minister of his own prejudice.
That's amazing.
that just about blows away for immunity of a judge. If he steps outside of his judicial abilities or delegated authority, he no longer is a judge. It says it right in this case. I thought, man, that I wish I would have known that before I filed my case. But I do have enough damaging evidence in my case to fight this battle. So
that's a great case.
But yeah, it's a good one. Pearson versus Ray. So not only does Norton set it up and say that an unconstitutional act is not a law, and not only does Norton set it up by saying if you are in violation of your delegated duty, you are no longer clothed with the ability of that office, but you are left naked. And that's also ex parte Young. So these judges have no place to go. If they step outside their judicial authority or jurisdiction, they're done. They're toast. So I thought you might be interested in that when you get involved in fighting in your case. That's a good one. Bradley versus Fisher is another one, but not as hot as this one. This one's really good.
What's Bradley?
It doesn't talk about Bradley versus Fisher. Bradley versus Fisher was about a judge and an attorney, a fight between a judge and an attorney. The attorney supposedly said bad things to the judge, and the judge said bad things to the attorney. And so there was a fight in court on that one. That's not as good, but it's got some good stuff in there, but it's not as good as this one. This one has the hammer that you need. So those are a couple of good cases to take a look at, especially if you're thinking of going up against the system and the judges and the attorneys. These are cases that you want to have under your belt. And
yeah, that sounds good. Well, we're learning stuff new every single day, and I think that's the significance of getting together with people and actually talking to people, right? Mm-hmm. I'm very interested in talking to just everyday Americans and not the people that are necessarily audience builders. Though I do think that we're going to have to rebuild our news networks and replace the corrupt ones that are out there. Something needs to be done.
Oh yeah.
Because we ended up just having mainstream or fake stream news replaced with the U.S. aid funded nonsense underneath it. So there's got to be a way to do this to include citizen journalists and people who are willing to teach, such as yourself, without this corruption that comes into it, without the influence of being paid or having your funds cut off. It's got to be independent, and people have to be able to say whether we agree or disagree with them. We've got to let people speak their mind.
RFK Jr. is cutting or trying to pass a law. I don't know if the law has been passed, but trying to stop pharmaceutical industries from advertising their drugs on TV, which was something that they never were allowed to do years ago, but now they're doing. I mean, almost every single ad I see on public television is about one drug or another. And RFK is going to stop that. By stopping that, that's a big money stream for the television industry to take care of, and they're going to lose that funding, which is, it's about time.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the billboards in your area, in all the areas around us. Look at how many nonprofits dominate the advertising field. The all of them are paying into this, and this goes into what I was just talking about, the Keiretsu, the supply chain monopolies going on. They wouldn't exist at this point in time because they killed local business. They wouldn't exist if they weren't being funded by the colleges. Come to this college, you get a great future. I would say that right now you're probably seeing 85% or higher of the advertising that's out there funded by billboards are a great thing. The outdoor advertising arena is a great thing to check and see the pulse of who's actually paying for our media. It's just the way it is. And you will see about 85% it's going into the monopolies. And of that, I'm going to tell you the casinos are part of it. The casinos are part of this. The nonprofits are part of it. The casinos are being used to launder money and traffic the children in the hotels next to them.
Why are you going to a casino?
Because I don't know. I don't.
Well, that's the game. That's the whole problem. Why are people doing things that they know are not good? Going to casinos, going to or taking drugs. Why are you doing things when they know they're absolutely detrimental to your health, and they continue to do it anyway?
Oh,
they
because
continue to provide the funding.
John, it feels good, but they don't even know what they're contributing to. Because we stay surface level on stuff. You know, it's just like surface level politics as they sell us off to every foreign entity on the planet. Surface level things to occupy our time instead of putting it into things that work. Surface level politics where we get around and complain and complain, but nobody ever does anything. And it doesn't go into action. It's something to keep us busy. It's bread and circuses.
That's right. Bread and circuses is exactly the case. We need to stop that. We need to find better ways of entertainment since we need to entertain ourselves.
Have you ever known anybody who's a gambling addict?
I have not.
I have. And I'm going to tell you what, it is such a detrimental, it's like any kind of an addiction. They will lie, cheat, steal to be able to continue their habit on in the promise of, oh, I know I'm going to hit it big the next time. I've known somebody that was like that. And I'm going to tell you what, it is devastating to the people around them.
Yeah, I guess. Mm-hmm. Same with being a drug addict. I guess it's
all the same.
It's a crushing situation, but they took that path in their life somehow, in some way. Something led them to that direction. What? I'm not sure. But when you take that path in your life, that's the path in life that you are following. You can get off that path anytime you want, but you got to want to do that. You got to want to change. That goes the same with anything that we do in life, relationships with families and so on and so forth. You've picked that path. That path can be changed.
Right.
But you got to decide that it's detrimental and you want to do something different.
Well, and let's go back to the beginning of the show where we were talking about a very unfortunate situation that happened to somebody that's a friend of mine, and you know, deciding that we have something to live for, and it's not just because we have something to live for. We have something to give. Every single one of us has got gifts and talents that God gives us, and that hope isn't necessarily what you see out there. It's the hope of what can I do to change the situation and not feel stuck. That there is, you know, I was telling you earlier that I'm the founder of Grief and Loss Today, Advances in Hospice, Advances in Bereavement. And we stopped some suicides. One of the things that, well, something that happened is that there was somebody that committed a suicide or accomplished a suicide. And I am just broken for that family because, you know, actually, I had somebody in my life when I was younger that that accomplished a suicide, and all of these things that you have to face with that sort of thing and the hopelessness that these people feel. And I'm going to just tell everybody out there, if you don't want to look really stupid, don't say it was selfish of them, because the people around them are hurting and they don't need to hear that. It's something that is, because it's more complicated than a dumb statement like that. It's dumb. Okay. It is a situation where somebody, quite often that person is a very sensitive person. that just can't cope with the world. And they're going to miss that person and all the good things that happened in their lives, or that they contributed, that they couldn't help that person for whatever reason. Somebody is going to accomplish a suicide and they've made their mind to do it. They're going to do it. And you probably aren't going to be able to have as much of an influence as we would want to think. And blaming ourselves is not something that we can really go down, even when we go through this. But it's a little bit of a complex situation. But at the end of the day, it's sort of like watching a hurricane or something else like that. You got to pick up the pieces of the people that are still left standing and realize that there's hope going forward. No one acts alone, whether they're a gambling addict or a drug addict, or if somebody does accomplish a suicide, the devastation to the people around them that have been involved in this is absolutely heartbreaking. And we need to put ourselves in the position of reaching out and being there, not to condemn, not to say negative things necessarily, but to help them walk forward and realize that there's always hope going forward. Same thing with watching the death of our nation. We've all watched the death of our nation. You know what? It's a heartbreaking thing to go through. I get it. But it's up to us to say, okay, find the strength in God, let him carry us, and get up and walk so that we don't become another part of the destruction that's happened in the lives of the people we love or the nation. And it's a hard thing to do. I'm not going to say it's easy. You know, it's like I when I was younger, I'm going to tell you, I could tell you about the situation that we went through, and a dad finding the remains of what happened. It was absolutely devastating. You know, and so there are problems that we are going to have to face, and we need to look within ourselves and say, you know what, we were appointed for this time, and God will give us the strength to face these things, but not to sit there in the wings, but actually get up and do something. It's the best thing you can do is do something, do anything, and it will pull you out of this heartbreak, you know. And I know what I'm talking about here. You know, it's like I could tell lots of stories about things, and we all can tell the stories about our lives and the things that we've gone through. And I think that that's a valuable thing, to tell those stories and let people know you're not alone. We're walking this together, and nobody's got this completely figured out.
Well, you know, I hate to cut you short, but with that said, my time is running out.
Yeah. Oh, Beth Ann is on here. I just saw her stuff. On the job training, better than a book. Agreed. Fake news needs to go. It's addicting, just like drugs. I had an uncle that was like that. He went to the casino and spent it all in the casinos. I'm going to tell you that. And maybe we should start talking more about these hurts that people have lived with in their lives and how they cope with it. I'm going to tell you right now. I had a mom that threatened suicide almost every day of my life. And to grow up and go through this, and come out on the other side a stronger person for it is it's kind of a feat. I'm going to tell you that. I'm not going to say it's easy. It was easy, but there is hope on the other side of every single thing we go through in life, and it's going to be okay. Even watching the things that we've seen in our country. But I love you so much, John, and I love the fact that all that you've gone through in your life and your bravery to teach and, to be a colonel and take what life throws at you and let God turn it into something beautiful. And that's what you do every single day. You come forth, you tell your experiences, you share that strength that you have. And I got to tell you, I'm always amazed and honored every day that we sit down and we talk together on how you've taken life and you've turned it into something absolutely beautiful, contributing to other people and continuing the fight, refusing to capitulate. I love that about you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So let's say a prayer minute, and then we're going to go. I'm going to go on to my day too. I've got fighting to do here. I've got lots of things to fix. And so, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for John and the wisdom you've given him and the fight that you put into him and the never say die attitude towards life and the challenges that it presents. They're all there. And we know that you can walk us through every single one of them. And we know it's your strength, your wisdom, and your help that you give us in any and all situations, and that we can always turn to you. Even when it seems dark out there, the light of you, the light of Christ, you're always there. And we thank you for that, for never failing, never forgetting us, never forsaking us. You're always there. And that when we walk with you, you make our path straight and you give us the strength to walk the path in front of us. And we just love you so very much. Thank you for always being there. In Jesus Christ's precious name we pray. Amen. There you go, boys and girls. We're going to go to that part of the show right now where we go to ding, 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 go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com because I'm the best non-conceited who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a talk with Donald J. Trump about it. And John's not conceding. You got two champion non-conceders here that are like sick of their crap. And we're not going to stop. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. And stick in the fight, stay in the fight, and never give up. That's how we win. And I'll see you next week, John, or maybe before that. I'm working on the things for the Taxpayers Party, which is the Constitution Party in the state of Michigan right now, and lots of them. You can't believe how much work I've got done this week as the chairman of the Constitution Party here. It's just, we just keep going forward every day, chip away at it a little bit. It's a choice to make today, and take those things that are hurtful and turn them around and let God turn them into something beautiful. They can be your greatest strength. They really can. It's your greatest strength when you come up against things that are difficult and you never give up. So we'll have a great day, and we'll see you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.